Alrighty, we are back with your favorite podcast show of the week. This is Location Weekly. It's episode number 451, and we're recording live on February the 12th. Brianna, how are you? How was your week?
It's good. Just got back last night. I was in Palm Springs or Desert Palm or one of those palms, California.
Mm-hmm.
Like all within 20 minutes of each other, for an IAB leadership summit, and it was good. So I'm a little bit jet lagged today, but not too terribly.
Everything's like a palm something there. It's sort of like in your part of the world, everything's a peach tree, right?
Yeah, it is, right? It's true.
Yeah.
Yeah, lots of palm trees. So, but it was actually not super sunny California weather. It was a little colder, and it had snowed actually the Saturday before I went in Atlanta, like big ginormous snowflakes.
Okay.
So that was kind of fun. And that lasts like 3 hours, which is like perfect, time period for a snow. And, long enough for the kids to go out and play in it, and then quick enough to melt and the roads to be fine. That's what we need here.
There you go. Well, we haven't had any snow recently, so you probably got more recent snow than me, so which is kind of weird, but yeah.
So you had some recent conferences. How were those? What were some exciting topics there?
Yeah, I was in Europe last week. Quick stop in London around the new startup and kind of looking at all the cannabis CBD stuff that's going on there on the medical side, and then. It was in Germany, and we had our LOCA conference, which is our big LBMA European event, and it was good, really good turnout, a lot of brands, especially on the retail side. A lot of the sort of the big box type of retailers came out, and some interesting, like some newspaper companies, and a whole mixture of brands. So yeah, I was quite happy, other than the fact that most of the content was in German. So I can read most of it. I just can't speak it. So yeah. I could get by. I knew what they were talking about. There were some really good presentations, really high level content. So yeah, good event all around. I'm back over there next month. Obviously we have POS Connect and Internet World Congress and Expo Congress. I'm thinking about Mobile World Congress, Internet World Expo, and POS Connect. Coming up next month in Munich, so we have a big presence there for the LBMA. So anyhow,
yeah, that's cool. There was lots of good discussions around this whole cookieless environment we are moving into from an advertising, ad tech, martech perspective, and of course, lots of conversation on what's happening in OTT and CTV. So it was good for for us from a Gather Lab perspective, just to kind of talk about how we are founded on and never even considered a cookie environment. So it was cool. And then obviously the big news that, was finalized today, where there had been lots of talk for a long time, but that Mobile World Congress was officially canceled. And so we had actually just decided not to attend that and kind of make some other arrangements and plans last minute. Just because, so many partners and prospects were pulling out of the event. And so, that's definitely a big thing going on in the industry. Lots of changes for people, and, maybe for the better. Nobody wants to be getting sick.
Yeah, absolutely. No, it's, I mean, what can you do, right? I mean, I think, caution, you gotta be careful. And, you and I travel a lot. There's a lot of events going on, especially events like that, where you just have so much international presence, so many big companies, there you sort of, especially when you have your, senior leadership of your companies attending these things, you got to be careful, right? So, so yeah, it's, I don't begrudge them. And at the same time, it's sort of, maybe time to do, smaller scale things, more regionally. I don't know. So.
Location based,
Location based. There you go. Yeah. All right. Anyhow, so we've got a good show coming up for you. The 3 industry news stories this week, 3 member news stories, kind of going all over the world this week in terms of the stuff we're covering. So I'll let you kick it off.
All right. Well, let's start in Korea. And we've got some fashion retailers that are trying to sort of, combat the massive scale that e-commerce is gaining, and they are trying to think about like what kind of technology they can employ to draw people to come into their stores, and just kind of do more fulfillment from their location, brick and mortar location. So this is Lotte, I think that's right, Lotte. And so there's a few different customers that are inside of, it seems like it's like this giant sort of shopping center, shopping mall in Korea. And so there's lots of like vendors and shops inside of it, but there's a few that are sort of going the extra mile in combating e-commerce with a few pretty unique offerings, I think. And so I'll just highlight a few of those. So there's a local fashion brand that is called MK. And they have this fitting room that's been installed with a tablet PC type of thing, and they can use that to show clothes that can pair well with other things that you've brought into the dressing room. So giving you options, I guess, like for outfits and pairing. And it can also use real-time location tracking to like accumulate data on clothes that have been purchased, tried on, and I guess tapped by other customers that they liked and paired well together. And then there's another one that's called Mojix. Oh, well, for that one, actually, it's Mojix APAC is the RFID solution provider.
Mm-hmm.
So they partnered with them on that. And then there's another company called Makers Lab. And so they're using, this one's kind of like, I don't know, it's a little weird to me. It's a little creepy, but I guess I get it. So they have this thermal camera they've installed, right? And the thermal camera is like mounted on the ceiling, and it can identify a customer's gender and age range. And so they use this data to sort of identify products that might resonate well with a certain age group and gender. And so that's kind of interesting. Yeah. And then there's another one called Elan Spau's Times Square Shop. And they're also using an RFID technology. And this will let store employees know when something is sold. Or, then they can advise the employees to like refill it so it doesn't run out. And it also will like minimize the time that it takes to get that filled. So it kind of links into, I guess, like their warehouse location. So they use the location-based technology to say like, where is this product located in the warehouse, as well as where is this product need to be stocked into the store, so that they can kind of make sure those are filled up. So that's another interesting use case. And my favorite example here of one that they're doing is this company. It's like a health and beauty store. It's called CJ Olive Young. And so they have been using some technology that over the past year, since I think December of 2018, and they're using it to help with same-day orders and delivery of those same-day orders. And so this is more of like, obviously just fulfillment and getting stuff to people very quickly. Think of an Amazon Now type of a concept. And they saw service jump tenfold in 1 year after they introduced this technology, which is huge. So basically they deliver goods to online orders within 3 hours, and they want to reduce that into 30 minutes. So for like beauty products and health care stuff, I really like this. And I would love for there to be more options like this, like I would love for example, like Sephora or anything like that to be able to do same day fulfillment. I think that would be amazing. I just think there's like so much opportunity there. For example, I've had a Sephora gift card in my wallet for like 2 years that somebody gave me. And the reason why I don't use it is because I just don't ever have time to go into the store. And I'm like, it's not worth paying shipping on stuff because not that expensive of a gift card. If I'm in the mall sometime, then I'll go. But like, there should be more of this besides just Amazon, right? So I like these ideas, most of them. Thermal camera, I could stay away from, but pretty interesting stuff.
Yeah, it's super interesting. For me, the interesting thread here is all of these solutions in these different shops, whether it's the thermal camera or the RFID to look at the movements of products inside of the store from a micro location point of view, or the same day delivery, it all sits on location data and solutions, right? So it's sort of central to kind of our world. And it's funny because like when we do things like our Loca conference last week or Retail Locos or whatever events we're putting on, we touch on all of these things. We, as the last year we've had panels on same day delivery, last mile. We've had, panels that talk about indoor micro location and so on, right? So it's cool that you can see like one mall environment where all of these things are kind of being played around with and experimented with. So I think it's super cool. I wish more retail would embrace that. And, you know, on the thermal thing, I'm a little, yeah, it's a little creepy, but at the same time, I'm all for it because I think at the end of the day, I think we need to have these types of solutions to give us, you know, the data that we're looking for on gender and you know, just better ability to build and stock stores with the right product for the people who are coming in there. And I think at the end of the day, it's as long as it's done in a privacy compliant, you know, anonymous type of framework, then I don't really have any big issues with it. You know,
It's definitely not as creepy as like facial recognition, right? But it could be misleading in some cases.
yeah, it's
Like
well, that's the thing,
and
right?
it's
It's
not.
in this case, it's not right. It's facial detection, which is like a whole sort of in the industry. They have this separation of, you know, we recognize the face versus we map the face to determine, you know.
Well, this is actually just using your body heat
Yeah, so it's a
to
whole
determine
different.
gender. So it's not even looking at your face whatsoever,
Yeah.
which is really interesting. I mean, it's super anonymous. Like, I don't have a problem with that. It's just kind of weird.
Yeah.
Like,
And there's a lot of other things coming. I know Amazon's playing around with like things like gait analysis and other things
yeah.
to do similar things, right? Because
I guess basically they're like looking at your body composition and like where you are carrying heat.
yeah, come
And
on.
like your genital locations to determine your sex, right? That's what we're talking about.
Something
so
like
you're
that.
like, okay.
Yeah.
Wow.
Wow.
Well.
Yeah. She's a hot head.
That
All right.
tummy's a little bit red. Like that one's like really big. That must
Yeah.
be for
Okay.
clients. So.
But then it gets into, you know, you can, you know, I don't want to get into ethnicity and all that too, because it.
I know. Then they could definitely start to say like, okay.
It's a factor. It's a factor. Anyways, all right. On to our second story. Okay, going from Korea to India now. So the Indian Space Research Organization, ISRO, they've been working on this for a long time now, but they basically have brought to market commercially now something called NAV-IC, which is their alternative to GPS. And so obviously we're all familiar with GPS. We've all been using it for eons here in North America. And, you know, there's only a handful of countries around the world that have their own satellite systems out there. Obviously in the US, in North America, we use the GPS, the Global Positioning System. And in Russia, they have GLONASS, and, you know, the Chinese have their own system as well. The Beidou system, and obviously Europe itself has Galileo. So the backstory to this is that India, at some point, you know, when there was conflict going on in 1999 between them and Pakistan, wanted to use GPS. They asked the U.S. For, you know, GPS access to see where some troop movements were, and the U.S. said no. And from that moment on, they're like, I guess we need to, you know, build our own system and become, you know, sort of self-reliant. And so they started out on this process to build this thing called NAV-IC. So it's now live. It's now functional 20 years later, and it consists of 7 satellites. And the cool thing is that the accuracy of this system is far better than the GPS system we have here in North America. So, you know, they're talking about you know, accuracy that can get down to just a couple of meters now, right? Where, you know, the systems that we're used to are, you know, not that great. They're getting better. There's new satellites going up in and around GPS today, but you know, there's a you know, a lot that needs to be done. So the way they're kind of positioning this in the market is that there's going to be kind of 2 layers to this, sort of what they call SPS, which is Standard Position Services, which is open to sort of all civilian users, just the general population. And then there's another layer which they call restricted services, which obviously they reserve for themselves for, you know, military, defense, intelligence purposes, and things like that. So pretty cool that they've got their own system now. You know, they're really positioning this, the standard part of this, as something that will get used heavily, you know, within the Indian market for services like Uber and Ola Cabs and Google Maps, and all of that will use this system just because of its accuracy and its, you know, focus on the market. So they see this as sort of opening up, you know, sort of a whole breadth of consumer facing location based, you know, platforms and services. So pretty cool.
Yeah, it is really cool. It's great to see that, even 20 years later, things that we think are super advanced or, traditionally work pretty well, there's always ways to improve upon those. And the next story is very similarly aligned because this company, NextNav, has raised $120 million, and they are also in the GPS space. So
Hmm.
this is pretty interesting, like two stories back to back, right? So you've got NextNav is they're raising this for their 3D geolocation services in the U.S. And so they led this investment round with Fortress Investment Group, and this was all of their former existing base of investors participated as well. But they're looking to raise capital to deploy a platform known as Metropolitan Beacon System, so MBS. And so this is basically like it has precise altitude determination capability. So they're calling this like their Z service. So if you think of it, basically currently location services provides like XY coordinates, right? So this is providing the Z dimension, which again, as you mentioned with the other GPS system, this will also be within like 3 meters of floor level. So, think about how important this is going to be when it comes to, I think of a lot of like, we were talking about that, the Lottie Mall, right? Like, a
Yeah.
lot of times in different Asian countries that are like more dense in specific city areas, they have a lot of shopping malls with like multiple floors. It's not like your traditional 2 or 3 story mall. And so kind of locating people within specific stores is proven to be difficult, and this seems like it'll be accurate enough to be able to sort of go beyond that. And so this is interesting. So they'll provide precise 3D position, navigation, and timing indoors and in urban areas. And then it can also act as a backup to GPS for critical infrastructure, mobile phones, IoT devices, autonomous systems, all those things. But what I think this is like kind of the overarching idea for this story, and for probably why they were able to raise 120 million, is because this is going to be used mostly, probably like primarily, and kind of what they're hoping for in terms of traction is it's going to be used to meet the FCC's 911 requirements for precise altitude determination for all of the drones and autonomous systems. So you think of all these drone delivery type of pilots that we've seen a lot of the companies like I think Uber, and we saw somebody partner with CVS to do like the drugstore deliveries testing. And so this is something that's going to be required for them to be able to probably scale that. And so there are companies that are looking to try and take advantage of that and provide that type of offering. So that is again NextNav. Yeah, so it's pretty
Yeah,
interesting.
super cool. So sort of tying this back, the one thing I forgot to mention about the Indian story is that and part of this announcement for them was they partner with Qualcomm to integrate this capability, the recognition or the nav IC chipset is part of the Qualcomm piece into devices, Android devices, and Xiaomi, Realme, all these sort of manufacturers of smartphones are sort of embracing this thing. So that's an interesting thing. And the reason I bring that up with Qualcomm is, part of, what we've done over the years with the LBMA in terms of, test projects and things, especially in markets in APAC, like Singapore, where you have a lot of shopping malls, or in Tokyo, in environments like that where you have high density retail, that basically is vertical, because unlike North America, they just don't have the space. So you have these massive shopping malls that are like, 20 stories tall or whatever, like it's ridiculous. And so when it comes to location and positioning, the altitude, the Z axis becomes really interesting. And so many smartphones in those markets, have, Qualcomm as being a big player in that from a chipset perspective, in factoring in not just GPS or Bluetooth or Wi-Fi for position determination, but even, incorporating things like barometric sensors, because you can use that to measure altitude. And so blending that in, as a mixture in there kind of gives you the ability to kind of do that. So, what I'm seeing in this story here with NextNav is really about, the scalability of those kinds of things. And then when you talk about the emergency services part of this, or sort of being compliant with, next gen E911 and things like that, that's to me where it becomes, really, really important. I was on a panel last year sometime, and, there was a carrier consortium there, and we were talking about, this, there's an initiative alongside, partner with in the US with the 911 side of things, called, I think it's called NEED. It's the National Emergency Address Database, I believe. And so what they were talking about is they're trying to get hardware manufacturers to embed the E911 capability from a location perspective, into the chipsets of their products, into the firmware and the chipsets of their products. So things like Wi-Fi routers, smoke detectors, thermostats, things in buildings, to be able to, be part of the E911 framework, so that when you hit a button to say, somebody's having a heart attack in this building right now, it's not just the GPS or whatever's on the phone, or the cellular network that the phone's connected to, but it can also then add in the closest, router or smoke detector or whatever it is into that mix, to give you much more accurate, location, and to get the emergency services there faster, to save lives, all those kinds of things. So to me, that's, what I'm really excited about a story like this is it's $120 million. Yes, it's going to help them grow and expand and do all the things that they want to do. But at the end of the day, if we can use location services to save more people and lives, then that's the best thing that can ever happen. So there you go. So congratulations, NextNav. All right, so that's our 3 industry news stories for this week. Now we get to shift over and talk about our favorite part of the show, which is our members and some of the things that they've been up to in the last week or so. So first off is Google. Never standing still, these guys at Google. So they're in celebration of the 15th anniversary of Google Maps. They are announcing a whole bunch of new upgrades to Google Maps itself for both iOS and Android, including crowdsourced transit data, restaurant guidance and other destination information, as well as what I think is super interesting, what they call a live view AR tool. So basically, in Google Maps on your smartphone app, you'll have 3 new tabs at the bottom of the screen called Saved, Contribute, and Updates. And so essentially, you can basically have through that the ability to contribute data to the platform in terms of the crowdsourcing transit data and all that sort of stuff. Much in the same way that people, I guess, contribute to things like Waze, in terms of where there's accidents and those types of things. So that's kind of cool. But the AR piece to me is super interesting. So they describe this as an overlay of digital guides to indicate which way to walk and identify nearby objects. It also will show how far a destination is using redesigned markers. And it combines street views, real world imagery with machine learning and smartphone sensors. So that's pretty cool. So yeah, I look forward to playing around with that and seeing kind of what you can do with the AR view piece of it.
Yeah, this is cool. I always think that viewing something live and in real time just is so necessary for a lot of things. I mean, I think that it could, like, depending on where you are, obviously, and what the location is, it could be a little uncomfortable if you're like at a healthcare facility or something like that. But, when you think about like going out or going to a restaurant or going, shopping or anything, you kind of want to know like what you're getting into before you get there, right? So is there going to be a long wait? How crazy is the traffic? Or if you're young, like, is the club popping? If people actually say that anymore, I don't know. Like, is it like a good, crowd? Is there enough people there that I want to go and be at this club or bar or whatever scene?
Is that what you do on the weekend, Maria?
Yeah, totally. I take my 2 kids out. Like, we just like load up. We hit the bars, man. We do bar hopping.
Gotcha. Yeah.
Yeah. So I don't know, but like, I think that that's really a great feature. I think it's, I mean, we've been telling stories at least every other month about different features that Google's integrating into their maps. So it's not like this is just like out of nowhere.
Mm.
And they have continually tweaked and added features, I think, both for businesses and consumers. So I think it's cool.
Well, and you can't stand still. I mean, Apple, despite all the hiccups and everything else, actually has now a decent map product, like a native map product. So I guess Google's looking at it, going, "Hey, we don't want to lose any share. We gotta stay current and keep moving forward on maps." So there you go. All right.
So we're gonna go to an Atlanta-based company here, Home Depot, and they're testing out something. So this isn't like they're not rolling it out to all their stores yet, but they're in pilot phase. They're piloting actually in Philadelphia, my old stomping grounds, this visual search software platform. So you can use it in the store to identify and illustrate and scan and tell you where exactly this product is in the store. The company they are partnering with and testing out is a Philadelphia-based company called Slyce Inc. That's SLYCE. And so basically they're a visual search and recognition company. And, they kind of gave an example of like, you're looking for some type of a specific bolt and you take a picture of it and then it shows you where it is and kind of illustrates where to find it. I mean, I think this is good. I like the idea of being able to have a visual search, but a lot of times when you're searching for something in the store, you don't actually have that product or you wouldn't be searching for it. So that was kind of funny to me. Like, okay, so I'm going to do a visual search based off of what? So I think that, it's good. It would be great if maybe they could integrate it outside of the store, like in their app or, where you can kind of get an idea, is it in the store before I even go there? Or I have this in my home and I need to replace it. Like, is it there? So I like the direction this is going. I think that there's something to it, but I'm not sure that going into the store to scan a product that's already in the store to then find it is actually beneficial. It also didn't say exactly like where. I mean, it says they're in kiosks, right? So you're scanning at a kiosk. So it's not like you're able to do it from your own device, which again, it's kind of like defeating the purpose.
I assume like maybe you can go find one of these things and check it out. Or is this only
in Philadelphia right now?
It's in Philadelphia, so it's not in Atlanta.
I can send it
yeah, I mean, so as I was reading this story this week, I was thinking, I'm assuming it's a kiosk with like a camera and you're like, okay, I've got this thing at home and, I need to replace this one screw or this bolt or whatever. And so I take it in and like the machine scans it and then it says, okay, we have the exact replacement bolt or whatever. And it's in aisle 32, over here, right? I assume that's what we're talking about. So for me, the kiosk thing is okay. It's interesting. The visual ability to search and find the product and be able to locate it quickly is good. It's cool. That's important. But it's not really super innovative and new. I mean, like I remember, oh gosh, it must be 4 or 5 years ago on this show, we talked about, I don't even know if you were doing this at this time or was before you, but we talked about Lowe's had a division, I forgot the name of it now, somewhere out in Southern California. Anyways, one of their sub brands under Lowe's, and they were testing this thing called the Oshbot. I remember that's what it was called. And so essentially it's like this, except in the form of a robot. And so you walk into the store and you show the robot the thing, the robot scans it. The robot actually, I remember, was multilingual as well. And it scans it and then the robot's like, now follow me. And it takes you exactly to where that thing is in the store. And you can find it. And that was like years ago. So, I think it's important. I think in a store like Home Depot or Lowe's or an environment like that, being able to find something quickly in a time-starved economy and kind of society that we live in today, this type of visual search, help me find what I'm looking for quickly and get in and out of the store fast, is super important. So I applaud the effort on that. I think there's some ways to improve on the delivery of it, whether that's in the form of a robot or through your own mobile phone or whatever. I think there's definitely room to grow from here. So, but I like it. I think it's it's interesting, it's important, and it's certainly necessary in today's culture.
All right.
So there you go. All right, final story. Well, right back here to Canada, Air Canada, which I fly on an awful lot. Has announced now that integration for Canadian customers who are buying tickets online with supporting PayPal as a payment option. So, nothing earth-shattering about this at all. Although I think it's for me, as I said, I fly a lot on this airline. I book my tickets online through Air Canada website, and I usually pay via my corporate credit card, or things like that. Is PayPal going to change my life here? Probably not. But if I'm looking to do, I'll tell you what, if I'm looking to do something through their mobile app, like pay for, a chocolate bar or some snack on the plane itself through the mobile app, and I don't want to fish out my credit card and all that, and I can just use PayPal or tap a button to do that. Yeah, that to me is convenient, saves me time. I'm not sure for booking my actual flight online, I'm all of a sudden going to shift from my corporate credit card to PayPal. I guess from a security perspective, if I link my card to my PayPal account and then it's sort of abstracted that way, in that it's, my number and all that details behind it are sort of, obfuscated a layer down because it's PayPal, then that's okay too. But this isn't going to change, a lot for me. I think there is a category of customers, the non-corporate customer, like the regular consumer traveler who, uses PayPal a lot, where this makes sense. And so, I can definitely see the benefit there. But for me as a business traveler, it doesn't change much for me.
I mean, I think every big business, should integrate with as many payment offerings as possible. So I think this is great. Like, will I use it? Probably not. I mean, I don't fly on Air Canada anyways, but if I was booking with Delta, I'm probably not going to use PayPal either. But I do agree that if it was something where, what's really frustrating is like you want to buy a snack or a drink on the plane and now I've got to fish out a credit card. It's like, it's just so antiquated to me, and it's a pain in the butt. So like, even just joining the Wi-Fi is like, why do I have to do this? Why can't I just use, Apple Pay or use Sky Miles or use anything, like you should be able to do that. It should be so easy. It should be like
any small purchase like that. I think this stuff makes sense, right? It just as many payment options, simple payment options as possible, right? Totally with you.
Yeah. So, but I do think that like just giving the options is great.
Yeah. There you go. By the way, I have to fly Delta next week, which I hardly ever do. So if you want to throw me any, Sky Miles or whatever, like, you'll feel free.
Okay.
Yes. So on that note, we are, what I should have mentioned at the top of the show is the LBMA is opening our newest chapter next week. So on the 19th, we are in Puerto Rico. And so yes, if you are down there, if you have operations in the area, come on down and see us in Puerto Rico.
Yeah, that'll be a fun trip.
Yeah, it'll be good. Baseball season is coming up, so there you go.
Yeah, but I mean, baseball in Puerto Rico is like the best environment you might get.
There you go. So awesome. All right. So that's our show. 3 industry news stories, 3 member news stories, kind of all over the world in 30 minutes or so. And we appreciate you listening and watching every week. We hope you are getting some benefit from this. If you are, of course, reach out to us on any of the social channels or the channels that you're listening to this on. Give us likes, give us stars, give us feedback. We love that kind of stuff. If you have story ideas, let us know. We're always open to those kinds of things. We'll see you next week for 452. Have a great week, everybody. Bye. Yeah.